From the standpoint of the Torah, there are things we're supposed to do that are mitzvot from Hashem, such as making a mizbeach, doing olat tamid, etc. And there really isn't ever a clear message anywhere from Tanakh saying you can't do that if you have to do it by making someone in the world unhappy, or you can't do that, if you're a violent person. We have counterexamples of that all over the place. As we said, Moshe was violent, and he makes a mishkan, and there was a mishkan in the time of Yehoshua, and afterwards the Maccabim reestablished a working mikdash as far as the sacrificial cult was concerned, even though that required winning a war against the Seleucids. And in all cases, we never learned from our sages or from the Torah, oh, you lose. You didn't figure out how to do this pacifistically, and so Hashem doesn't want it. Because he does want us to do korbanot. He does want us to bring sacrifices to him according to his Torah. But it is stupid to say, oh, okay, and I also want to, on top of that, build a Beit HaRazim, so to speak. I want to make a big, welcoming, permanent structure kind of palace, a big welcoming house for the world. And if I have to steal a poor man's one little sheep to feed it to those guests, then I'm going to do that. And if I have to take stones and hack them to pieces with my sword so that they're the right shape because they were in the wrong shape to begin with, then I'll go and do that. And if I have to basically wage war against the world in order to force it to be unified around Jerusalem, then I'm going to go and do that. Those kinds of attitudes are the thing that we're seeing there's a problem with. And that maybe David had a little bit of a he had so much zeal. It's very understandable given his personality that he had so much zeal for Hashem that there was an impatience that he had, right? That he had to be instructed by Nathan that it was okay. Hashem will give you a dynasty. This will happen. Give it time, right? Be patient. There's no reason for us to try to have everything now. Some of this will be a developmental process that will come after you, and in the merit of your wanting it, your dynasty will build it. And that should be good enough, right? Some of it is like that. And other parts of it are like, if you can do a mitzvah, go and do the mitzvah. And if someone's trying to stop you from doing the mitzvah, then you should fight them, right? And you should not accept that the sort of threat of violence from your enemies is reason not to serve Hashem, right? So both of these things can be true. And I think that there's such a muddle in discussion around mikdash versus like the sort of bait for all mankind that David wanted to build, that we sometimes get confused. But the truth is, both of these things can be true. That on the one hand, because we don't need to finish the whole structure tomorrow, it's actually much easier to justify small incremental steps forward every day on Har HaBayit right now. There's no reason we can't take another step forward every day towards Korban Pesach and Olat Tamid and other things that don't need a big Beit HaRazim in order to be accomplished, on the one hand. And on the other hand, we can take that longer term goal and say, oh, that's something we do have to work on. Like, a lot of people hate us right now. We aren't actually allies with more than half the world yet because we haven't won them all over, because we haven't set the right example yet, or whatever else. And so that can be a process. And there are things that we can work towards where we can say, that's for our children and our grandchildren, for the future generations. There's a developmental process that we need to make them custodians of, so that, in this sort of shamir-like way, there can be this slow process of plants worming their way through the rock, given enough time. And that element of patience is much easier to understand in the context of the Beit HaRazim, and it, in an interesting way, opens up the possibility that even though David was told what he was, that it makes it all the easier for us to make incremental steps towards the proper and practical kiyum of basic mitzvot involving mikdash much sooner, because we don't have to wait for some Biat HaMashiach. We don't have to wait for some perfected condition that will allow the whole structure and the whole final product to come together at one moment. We can do what we're able to do now, and then at the same time take a longer view that it requires patience and development and diplomacy and the peace that comes from victory in war, that does take time and that does take generations, in order to really become something that is ultimately unifying for all of humankind.